Okay, so we're at Uwajimaya, Seattle. It's this really amazing Japanese Asian grocery store. Typically in the morning they have really amazing fish, great meat, all that good stuff. So we're gonna walk inside and scope out what they have and see what's most fresh, what's not fresh. We'll talk about things to look for. If you come in here looking for fresh fish, you'll find it. If you come in here saying, I want a piece of salmon, you might not get exactly what you want every day. So we're gonna go in there and see what they actually have and talk about the pros and cons of this cut, that cut, and what to look for if it's fresh fish or if it was fresh fish that was just mishandled or whatever. So we're gonna go in there and talk about those things. Surprisingly enough, sometimes they have really, really good stuff in these containers because they just get it, process it, and pack it, get it, process it, and pack it. Sometimes the whole fish is actually not the freshest stuff. See if we have any good indicators here what to look for. So these are this is sockeye right here, wild sockeye. And you can see there's weeping water. That means it was frozen and thawed probably a couple times. Often people will catch it, wait several days, then freeze it, and you don't want that. So that's one sign to look for. The other sign to look for is how it's kind of falling apart here. That's not necessarily what you want. This is a nice, really nice piece of fish. The belly is pretty firm. It kind of springs back. It doesn't stay mushed, you know? That's really, really, really good what you want to look for. We'll go look at whole fish in just a second. And there's other things you can look for when you're actually looking at whole fish. If you go shopping for fish and there's fish behind the counter and there's things that they won't let you touch, which isn't totally typical that they say, okay, you can't touch the fish, otherwise you got 1,000 people touching it a day. One of the first things you want to look for is if it's a whole fish, does it look wet and slimy or does it look dry and wrinkly, even the skin? If it's dry and wrinkly, it's going to be softer flesh. You don't want that, it's going to be old. If the eyes are looking cloudy or opaque, they literally cloud over. It kind of looks like cataracts or something. So the gills, if you can see the gills through the case, that's all whole fish stuff. That's a good one. See, those are nice and red. If it's filleted fish, same thing. You want to make sure if you're looking at a fillet of fish behind the counter, that it's nice and smooth. It's not, the muscles aren't coming apart on it, and it has some cohesiveness between the fat and the muscle, the fat and the muscle and the belly. And if you can touch it, what the stuff you want to look for is, if I touch the meat, does it come back when I touch it? Just like if you touch your own hand, you don't leave a dent in your palm when you push on it. You can see that actually returns back because it's normal, healthy flesh. Or if you move it around, you can actually see the muscle moving another ½ an inch up. That's just being responsive. So you want that to happen because if it's really old fish, you touch on it and that'll maintain this little dent. It's really not nice. So when you cook that fish, they'll end up mushy, mealy, and dry. As opposed to if you get the fresh stuff, when you cook it, they'll end up tender and moist and the fat will have a much nicer flavor. It won't be oxidized at that point. Yeah, that's a good fish. We'll do a few of these too. That's a nice firm fish too, sockeye. That's kind of tricky. Feels like it might be frozen on the inside. I've been fooled before. Seriously, you get it and you're like, God, it's frozen and it's actually soft. So one of the things you definitely want to look for is you're checking out the fish. It looks really pretty. The fins are these are beautiful fins. Clear eyes, look at the gills. Look how shiny they are. They're not mangled and beat up because if the fish are mistreated and they're penned too long or they're living in the nets, literally the fins start to decay. They'll even bite them off if they're stressed. If they're tanked for a little bit, they'll bite each other. But this is an immaculate looking snapper. The gills are pretty nice. They're not perfect, but they're really not bad yet either. We'll definitely get a couple of those guys. Thank you. So I bought way too much fish.